Footy and Frothies Trial Week 2 review show. Daggy and Barney with you once again. Just, I was going to say, was it 5 sleeps? 5 sleeps until NRL. My math's no good. 5 sleeps till NRL 2024 kicks off officially in Vegas. We're going to preview that later on. We've by now seen just about everyone roll out, just about everyone they can.
Close to a first grade squad, yeah.
So, as per last week, we're going to just touch on each and every trial and see what's come out of them. And obviously, 2 of them you can't take anything out of, apart from, Barney might pick out a couple of good-looking young
I'll tell you right
stars on
now,
the
I
rise.
didn't watch the Brisbane-Manly game. I did not watch 1 minute of it.
Okay.
I haven't gone
Good.
back and
Makes
looked at
2.
replays
Makes 2
or
of us.
anything.
So beyond that, the games that matter we're going to get into. We've got some Supercoach chat now. We've had a month for it all to marinate and to see potentially who's going to get the key last few spots. That'll be a separate show on the podcast feed as well as on YouTube. And of course, we're going to preview round 1, at least the first 2 games, the Vegas games, and talk about that later on. How do you find this weekend of footy?
Yeah, some very interesting games, a few different tactics across a few different squads, the way that they lined up for these games. But there was probably 2 ultra-impressive teams that I thought coming out of this weekend that really looked good on both sides of the ball. So,
if we're doing our stocks, and everyone hold on to it, given apparently every other show does them, so I'm going to flick it. Who are they? Can I guess Melbourne's one of them?
Yeah, Melbourne looked very impressive. Their forward rotation looked a lot better than I
I
expected.
thought they were fantastic.
And Parramatta, for mine, were probably the team of the weekend. They looked very impressive ball in hand, and their defence was probably much better than I saw at different times last year, especially once the ball got out a bit wider. They were fairly dominant and probably up against a team that wasn't throwing huge amounts of attack at them. But I thought they were ultra-impressive, Parramatta, for the first at least 40 to 50 minutes of that game.
I agree with both of that. Of the games I saw, obviously was booked up all weekend with cricket, but managed to catch up on most of it. In the interest of time, I didn't watch the Brisbane game either, full disclosure, and I was flicking between everything that was on Friday night for the first the South Sydney game there, South versus Sydney game there. Yeah, let's just knock over. Not a great deal of news, obviously, apart from injuries. Poor old Tom Gilbert, ACL, gone for the year. Big loss for the Dolphins. So thoughts with him and his recovery. He's had a rough time his whole career, really, but last 3 have not been great. Cohen Hess is having scans on a knee, but doesn't look great. I think it's going to be season-ending by any means, but I haven't seen an update. The rest's are all little bits and pieces. Laurie was holding his ribs, should be right for round 1. Nico should be fine after being rested. Obviously no Schuster in Vegas, but we sort of knew that was coming.
Expected to be fit for round 2, though, from everything coming from the club. But
Okay.
We'll see what happens there.
And Simonson, AJ both got knocked out and are being monitored. 10-day turnaround, longer than 10-day turnaround. Hopefully, should be fine.
Be okay. Sivo copped the 3-week suspension.
Yes, he did. Lastly, Taruva is hopeful of round 1 for his knee.
Okay.
Left the field.
Didn't
over
look
in
great.
England. No, but apparently he's not as bad as first feared. Yes, a bunch of fines and Sivo 3 weeks for a nasty shot on AJ, cleaning him up.
Got him pretty clean with the shoulder. I thought it might have been 2, but 3.
He does have a bit of a history. I know they don't actually doesn't carry over anymore, does it? No. But it was pretty bad. In another world, it could have been more, but yeah.
And, Brimson was looking really sharp up until that point as well.
He was looking great, to the point where, spoilers, he's in my Supercoach team, but now he's dual.
Yeah.
I think he's very much on the menu, but we'll save that. Any other takeaways from the weekend before we go game by game?
Oh, not as an overall, no. Not really.
Okay. I guess we'll save
Yeah,
teams
we're going to go
game
through
by game, so everything else we'll get into. The round kicked off with 46-10, the South youngsters beating up the other way around. Roosters youngsters beating up the South youngsters. As I said, I was flicking during this one. There looked to be some nice plays along the way, which I saw. But did anything catch your eye of this game?
Not a huge lot on South's end. I thought Braden Burns did a pretty decent job. Being realistically the only first grader out there, looked a bit better than most of his teammates. Young Gray, who played at hooker, had some really nice touches early in the game for them. And the front rower is another Gray. I'm not even sure if they're related, but he had a pretty good game for South Sydney. But their standout for mine was probably the winger that was up against, is it T. Hawa from South
Tahawa,
Sydney? Yeah. He had a really good running battle with his opposition winger, which I think it's Dom Young's brother, from the Roosters side. And, it put some nice defensive shots on. But South Sydney were pretty underwhelming. It wasn't obviously it was a game with a lot of young guys in there, and it never really reached any great heights, but the Roosters got on a roll there for a good half an hour, and their back row was just dominant. There's some young guys in there that you'll see over the next few years that looked fantastic in this game.
Beautiful. Just quickly for the sense of completion, Gromick 116 Supercoach points, Fekete 77, Williams 69, Moriarty 68 for the Chooks. And for the Bunnies, French 64, Braden Burns did get 58, Maloney 48 and 47 to Gray, the prop.
Yeah, that C. Ross and Foketi were fantastic for the Roosters in the back row. You mentioned the fullback. He was involved in everything. His support play was tremendous. And, the Roosters were very dominant.
Again, it all means nothing, given that everyone else was in. I'm sure it's very promising for the
you
New South Wales
might
Cup.
see two or three of these
young
guys get 1 or 2 games during the year due to injury and suspension, but you're not going to see many of them running out.
Friday night proper kicked off 12-6. The Sharks over the Bulldogs at Belmore once again. And are you doing stats, or am I just reading out a few things?
No, I didn't put any stats down. I just went the same way as we did with the first trial, to be honest.
They were, well, let's kick off here. I thought it was an odd game because the first 20 minutes, Sharks completely dominated the middle. Mm-hmm. And it was like grave concerns for the Bulldogs pack sort of being up against a proper first grade pack for me. But they wrestled their way back into the game throughout the back end of that first half. I do think 12-6 flattered them. I think the score could have been much more.
Well, they took Brayley off after about 24 minutes, and the whole push through the middle of the field just completely stopped. It was basically after that try, I think they took him off. And the service out of the middle of the field was completely different. But, tough physical battle in the forwards. The Doggies forwards aimed up pretty well, I thought, for a big part of this game. My biggest takeaway was the absolute direction that the Sharks went, and I think they had about 3 plays where they tried to put an attack on in the entire game. They did not look to spread the ball at all during the game. For mine, it looked like they were using it as a warm-up, like a contested physical battle for their forwards in the middle of the field, and that was about it.
Yeah.
And Trindle to practice his long kicking into the corners, and they attempted a couple of 40-20s, but there was they put one wraparound play on, which Crichton absolutely iced Kennedy at the back. You didn't see it again. You didn't see change of angles. You didn't see short balls inside or outside. It was just straight through the middle of the field for the entire 80 minutes.
Yeah.
And, Doggies looked okay at times with their shifts. They were pretty willing to throw the ball around, but never really troubled the Sharks' defences too often, apart from Ramian charging out of the line a couple of times, which did worry me a few times, but he does have a tendency of doing it. And when it works, it's fantastic. But, it causes problems when he doesn't hit his man, obviously.
Yes. I guess what we can really do is just tick off the Sharks forwards and say they all got through the work well enough. Hazen did his usual job. So did all of them. Can't really knock any of them. The tries were a couple of nice changes of direction and decent enough build-ups. But, as you said, more of a contested training session for them, which I feel like is how they've treated all the pre-season. Yeah. Bulldogs, the backs got through a decent enough amount of work. Poor old Blake Taff had a night to forget.
He had about 15-minute stretch there.
In about 8 minutes at one point at the start of the second half. But you can't take a great deal out of... I don't think you can take a great deal out of... You can give Sherry and Wilson... Sherry another tick, I guess, if he's going to be there. He made some tough yards out of the back. I don't know if he will be.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Wilson, a couple of errors, and I imagine Karazi's lurking somewhere in the background anyway. Weird. I know, he probably had to do something, but Tav Crichton just played 20 minutes. I know he's coming back from some niggles and whatever, but it's odd just as a centre to just
I
have
thought
20
they would have
minutes,
given
touch
him
a
at
ball
least
3
40
times.
minutes.
Well, or even just say get and have a run a couple of times because he might touch the ball 3 times. And as you said, was fine defensively, but you can't really take anything out of that.
The big takeouts for mine for the Bulldogs were Sam Hughes again. Limited minutes, but was very strong carrying the ball through the middle of the field. Jacob Preston just went back to doing what he did all last year. He was one of their best players on the field. I thought Curran had a fantastic influence when he came on. His defence was strong. He was busy in and around the ball and created a few problems in the middle of the field. You mentioned Hazelton. I thought Hunt and Rudolph both did a pretty good job too through the middle of the field there when they were working that way. Mahoney was decent with his passing and running game, but seemed a fraction off again.
I don't know.
The younger fella seemed to add a bit more energy when he came on again, when they brought on the young hooker to replace him.
I don't know what to make of Reid because I watched the first game and then all the big hoo-ha about how he didn't quite handle the captaincy. Even I think he came out and said that he was a bit not up to scratch. And I was thinking, okay, this might be a year where he gets back to para form, but he just never really got going. His service at times was okay, a couple of nice crash attempts, but yeah,
he works pretty hard in defence, but he
gives away 6 penalties a game. So, it's hard to really want to sink my teeth into him, even from a Supercoach point of view. Whereas I thought he might be someone that's just completely off in pod land that you could go and grab, but I couldn't really find him.
Trindle's kicking game was pretty decent, but didn't really, as I said, they didn't really fire too many shots in attack. And Burton's bomb hasn't gotten any smaller. I think he put up about 3 in a row in the space of 10 minutes, and Katoa wanted absolutely nothing to do with 2 of them. And Kennedy wasn't real keen to get under the 3rd one either. So they just sit up there and spiral around and do all sorts of weird stuff when he gets them up there when he puts them up that high.
I think you've summed up most of the key talking points I had. We'll know next week, but I'm convinced Sexton's trying out for 14 because he did nothing but run. He came on and just ran and did great again, like really straightened him up. But there was no other intent beyond him just getting into the line, digging in the line. And I think he must have just been told, look, we'll try at 14, so you're going to be doing some.
I'm pretty sure he's been told Hutchinson's got the first month and then we'll reevaluate it.
Which will mean he'll play 20 minutes for. And if he's going to play like this, he's capable of changing games in and around that half time.
In and around tired forwards and stuff like that.
Given just how obvious it's been for 2 games now, it has to be the plan. I'm saying.
Hutchinson did seem a bit.
He was a bit off.
He was nowhere near as good as he was in the first trial. Obviously, different opposition and whatever, but he wasn't going into the line the way he was straightening the attack the way he was in the first trial game. So.
Going right back to our preview, we've seen 2 weeks. Pretty happy to sit by what we've said about both these teams.
Yeah, I think so. Obviously, the Sharks not showing any attacks a little bit concerning, but they've shown it for 2 years, so it's there somewhere. It's just the way.
And Nico wasn't there. Nico's going to come back in 2 weeks at PointsBet, and off we go. So.
But their forwards were probably a fraction stronger than I saw out of them last year, so yeah, that's a tick for the Sharks. And the Dogs have definitely improved in the middle of the field, which has been their biggest problem for the last 2 years. So I don't know if it's big enough to get them, up into that clump. I think maybe the bottom of that clump, but I still think they might be pushing around the top of that bottom 4.
Yeah. Yep. Not much more to add there. We kicked off Saturday in Fiji with 28-10 Melbourne over Newcastle, and I think this was flattering to Newcastle for what could have been at the start, but a pretty dominant performance from the Storm. Mm-hmm. Harry played big minutes.
Harry was fucking tremendous.
And of all the teams, and I know they're Melbourne Storm, so you can't really be
Harry
too
was
shocked.
Just playing games at different times during this match.
But if you're looking for anything from the Storm, you got exactly what you wanted to see in this game, didn't you?
Yeah. Well, he was dummy and left, dummy and right, dummy into the halfback, and then giving it to the halfback. You know what I mean? Like he was just doing some seriously silly shit at different times, just to play games with the opposition. But Hughes had a pretty good game. Did Pez it again. Very impressive young fella. Considering he's sitting in the background.
Genuine first grader.
Looks like
that. Obviously, he's lurking, and throughout the year, he's probably end up playing 12 or 14 first grade games because there's origin, injury, blah, blah, blah. Can cover both. He's on cover for both halves. Gosh, a good player. He's just a good player. He's very smart. What do you have, 2 or 3 tries history? He just dug in the line.
He's
puts
got a very solid
open,
kicking game.
Open holes up to gaping size and put them through. It was very impressive from him.
The ball movement between the 9-7 and then to the blokes out wide was very smooth at different times during this game.
Yeah.
It's the way that the ball got across to the back line so quickly and into good positions. And the defence was pretty strong in the middle, which was good to see.
I think because last year was always a concern, that and the edges.
Considering Nelson wasn't there as well.
But you probably forget how good Christian Walsh is. And I think you notice having Kamakamika and Walsh all year is going to be massive for the Storm.
Well, one of them, Kamakamika, I thought was a big mention in this game. I thought he had a real good game in the middle of the field. Throwing Katoa as well, he had a belter. Welsh was, as you said, did everything that he needed to do in the middle of the field. Coates was pretty good again, but he's pretty solid most weeks when he's out there. Newcastle, for mine, were a bit clunky, ball in hand at different times.
That's the thing I was going to say about them is they had plenty of raids where a ball ended up in the second row, or they tried to push the rainbow instead of hit the man to go through their hands, or like on both sides of the field.
Took the wrong option.
It just went wrong, and it was. But you're watching it going, you know what? They'll get that right.
Yeah.
Like it's just execution in a trial game.
You have different guys
but come around
in.
they'll be hitting. Kalen will be hitting the bloke, or Hastings will be digging to the right depth to get that centre through, and you could see where they're heading. So, again, it's hard to say when you've been sort of comprehensive towed up. But
I suppose the defence from Melbourne probably didn't let them off the hook either. They did have pretty good line speed, and they were getting in Newcastle's face.
But from that point of view, when you're one of those ball in motion, up-tempo teams, it's one of those things that they always say it takes a few rounds to get clicking. And you could see where they're heading.
And the days it doesn't hit, it just really stands out compared to when it is all off and going and it looks so incredibly good. But I thought Thompson was probably close to their best player on the field again. He just seems to be getting better every time he runs out at the moment. And the Saifidi boys would be getting worried about their minutes if I was them. All right, Elliott, I thought, looked really strong again in the middle of the field. Just that real hard worker, clean-up guy in the middle of the field that they've needed for a few years and now seem to have. And Ponga did look sharp running the ball and physically strong. But, just a couple of wrong options here and there.
Yeah.
And you got to throw Bradman Best in there and Tuala. I think Tuala may have taken that spot now from Jenkins. I thought that's his second pretty decent performance.
I almost feel like he
never lost it. Yeah, quite possibly.
He was always next in line, and he's had 2 good games now.
Yeah.
Because you would have seen more from Jenkins in this game, I feel, if
you would
there was
think
more intent.
Yeah.
What do you make of Kai Pearce-Paul in his back end?
Didn't really see.
Well, I
think I heard his name about 3 times and I noticed him once.
He dropped a bomb. He put on a couple of okay tackles, but I can't recall him having a great
there was
deal of involvement.
There was actually one pretty solid shot he did put on. Looked like the biggest bloke on the field.
So
he's fucking
big
massive.
and angular, and you notice him. You see him there, and I'm sure he's got.
I didn't see him have much involvement on either side of the ball.
And probably not a great deal else to talk about. I think you hit every point there. I just was ultra, and you shouldn't be shocked.
Jed was pretty good.
He was, yeah.
And if he's fighting out with Lucas off the 2 trials, they'd be pretty close. I know Lucas did have 2 tries, but Jed just seems to get through that little bit more work. So depends on what they're looking for, I guess.
And both as cheapies, they're interesting for our
next Jed's about half the price of Lucas. So
yeah,
Lucas is already if he lands
pretty close to where he's going to be, isn't he? But I took what I took away from this was that I think we should all be on notice for Melbourne this year, really. In a year, and it's a trial.
Sucks. But, I just want to see him fall off the perch, even if it's just for 1 year.
I know, but I
fall off, goddammit.
And a lot changes in 2 weeks, but no, I think it's scary times ahead.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, 34-22 Warriors over the Dolphins, and geez, the Warriors played the classics in this game. They were physical, and they pulled out just about all their go-tos over the course of the afternoon. They had the crash play for Barnett. They had the Johnson into the line, open up the hole for the back row. They had the
little dink kick across the field, but Dallin wasn't there. Yeah. But normally it'd land on his chest.
Dallin intercepts one of the classics these days as well. So they had it all. What do you take from this one?
Oh, they were brilliant. I think I tipped them in our bold prediction show to win the comp last year, and everything looks to me that they should have a pretty fair crack at it by the end of the year, as long as they don't fall off a cliff. Just so physical through the middle of the field, and Egan got out and running early in this match, and that 1, 2, 3 punch with a forward, then a dummy half scoot, and then another forward straight up the back of it. They were making 40, 50 metres without really even trying at different times during this game, and then you start getting your backs involved, who are as big and strong as just about any of them in the comp. They've got a massive back line as well. They're not small boys out there, so. I thought, the Warriors were fantastic in this game.
Yeah, and I would say that
Dolphins weren't bad. Dolphins put up a decent effort as well. It was a pretty good game, realistically. But I thought they got blown away early, and they did it,
And it was
they
it
had to
wasn't
struggle
blown away.
to
It
get
was
back
the
in
front door blown off.
Yeah,
It was,
they just got bashed
Barnett,
in the middle of the
and
field.
it was Barnett near Corey, probably the two lesser of the forward pack on paper, which we've always sort of respected. But they were fantastic in this game. Looked sharp and quick and fit. Which is what we always look for. Capel, great addition. Always manages to find some broken field in and around.
It's the first bloke to grab someone when they make a break, and just
he's
the ball's there for the scramble.
Fact they made it to that prelim final. You put in Kurt Capel, who's won 3 comps, and Roger Tuivasa-Sheck, who was absolutely outstanding again.
Looked even better when he went to fullback, which
Yes.
is interesting. But
But it was. Very, very scary and very ominous.
And Barry
as well.
looked fantastic. Barry looked like he's actually...
But they're just all huge. Barry's big, Montoya's
massive,
wide and huge, and they just belt you.
But Barry, I've had some raps on him. I did mention that I think he'd be a very good attacking player in the last 2 seasons, and just looks like he's got that confidence now, and he's filled out a little bit, and he just seems to seems to be in a pretty good space at the moment. So he's another one that could be worth looking at when you start upgrading your centre wings during the year. But I thought Egan was fantastic, but only played a few minutes and then was taken off early. The halves look fantastic at different times. They clocked off a bit.
Do you think Luke Metcalf has the inside rail now?
Yeah, he looked as smooth as silk at different times with his ball playing.
Yep.
Looked really good on that left edge. And they did play a lot left edge, right edge. Johnson did sort of fold around a couple of times, but it looked pretty planned that it was going to be a left edge, right edge sort of combination. And, he looked really silky with some of his passing, which I haven't seen from him that often before.
No.
But, there was so many of them that you could mention. I thought O'Sullivan looked really good until he got knocked out, obviously, which hurt their options, because the middle of the field just completely fell apart until Cody took control at the back end of the game and started doing something.
I feel like he has to play 6 for him.
Oh, Cody,
he's the only point of attack now, especially, can't say with O'Sullivan going off, but he feels like their only point of attack.
With Sullivan, I think he's a much better option at the moment. Katoa still doesn't look ready. He looks to get flustered very easily, and when under pressure, just makes the wrong decision more times than the right one. So that'll come in time. He's apparently a very gifted half. It's been touted for a long time, but I think he might still be half a season away from being where he needs to be at the moment. And Cody looks to me like the bloke who should be there. Looked miles ahead of Katoa. Flegler looked awesome. Picked up those minutes after Gilbert got hurt as well. So,
he's in the conversation to play lock now.
He was their enforcer.
Yeah,
he was the one that was bashing the front door, taking it back to the Warriors, and there wasn't many of them that were taking it back to him. But he was more than happy to keep charging at him. Nichols did his job like he always does, and Wallace I thought had a couple of nice touches towards the back end. Lemuelu, again, another one we mentioned, just worked really hard, but may not get a spot in this.
Looks like Bostock's going to, and he took the nice
Bostock looked really good.
He will be starting a wing, I'd suggest.
His ownership will be 50% plus, I would imagine, in Supercoach now.
And some nice enough combinations, Tessie New, Herbie,
Tavare,
having some
barged
decent
through a
times.
few blokes a couple of times.
It's the age-old question, where does Averillo fit?
I'm not sure he does fit at the moment.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to use him as a 14 and Katoa goes out of the side, which might be to an advantage. Averillo can play hooker, can play
and
centre.
And he's faster. Can
fill in the half.
And if a fullback goes down, he can cover the whole back line. So
Yeah.
perhaps
I'd say that's
the
probably the
option.
way that they're going.
Yeah.
They've had 2 looks at Katoa in these 2 trials, and I can't remember him putting anyone through a hole or creating any sort of momentum for his team. So
I can't remember him doing anything of note in his first grade career, to be honest.
there was
There's a
one
couple
or
of
2
crossfield.
games last year.
There was one
but,
game where he had
yeah.
a couple of nice kicks and that sort of thing, but yeah, very much just going through the motions. Anything else you can talk about?
Tessie New looks strong, and they've still got 1 or 2 blokes to come back into this side, but they didn't play here. But yeah, the Gilbert injury's horrible for mine. I think that changes my look at how I was pretty keen on them getting close to the 8, and without Gilbert there, just changes that forward rotation a whole heap.
The names thrown out just reading today, I think it was in the Herald. A real possibility Flegler could end up at lock. Mm-hmm. Otherwise, you're looking at Ray Stone.
If he becomes an 80-minute lock, he's
a buy.
Lay down Mazaire for Supercoach.
And otherwise, and you know Ray Stone gets through a mountain of work if he becomes 80 minutes as well. But he's coming off a year off, so he'll be better for some runs. Ewan Aitken, does he?
Oh, he got his tick. Yeah, he gets his pass mark like he always does.
Again, when they've got a glut of centres, it's hard to see.
At his worst, he's as good as anyone, really.
Yeah.
Even when he plays, I don't think he does play poorly anymore. He used to back in the day. He used to have bad games, but he doesn't have a bad game in him anymore. So on consistency basis, I don't know. I think he probably ends up in that rotation now. As you said, they've got some pretty good options out in the centres. So, and
they're
a
not young,
bloke that you can shift.
They can
out of
get away with 4 middles without
rotation.
with using Flegler at lock, with Wallace, the Bromwich boys,
and
the Nichols,
yeah.
plus Max Plath, somewhere floating around. He's only young, but interesting to see that it's such a tricky thing because when you're trying to balance.
I think they'll start him at centre.
Aiken?
I'm still not sure they're sold on Tafari. But
No, I can't imagine Tafari starting. Can't possibly imagine that. It's whether it's Aiken or Avarillo or...
Herbie's picked up an injury, so the
I
first few weeks...
I haven't heard how bad that is yet.
Yeah, Jardy's now at training today, apparently, people. The trainers reckon he'll be fine, or the physio's come out and said he reckons he'll be fine for round 1, but we'll see.
Anything else from this game?
No, mate.
Just for a sense of completion, Mitch Barnett let the Supercoach scores 83 from that game to RTS 77 on the back of his 7-year-old last week. Niokore 71, Johnson 63, Metcalf 55. For the Dolphins, Flegler 52, Tessie New 43, same as Cody Nikarima, Bostock 42, Herbie 42. That top 5, I imagine, will all be very popular. Perhaps not New, given he's already priced fairly high, but we'll get to that. Starting, we start segmenting Supercoach away from a lot of our chat just because a lot of people don't do it and it's a bit boring.
But when we get into the round proper, as we did last year, I'll just mention the top 3 scorers in every game, and then we just move on, and Supercoach will be a different conversation.
It's an animal. Harry Grant 62 for Melbourne, Pezzett 56, Jerome Hughes 55, Katoa 51 for the Knights, Tuala 48, Ponga 41, Best 36, whatever all that means. Can't take a great deal out of it. Then 7 a.m. Sunday morning, Penrith, the greatest rugby league team of all time, once again fell short in...
Don't want to talk about your team?
Saturday night, wasn't it? Yeah.
It was.
I don't want to talk about it, but I will. Let's clear up Saturday, actually. I'll skip right ahead. As we've mentioned, I was in the middle of a cricket semi-final, so I've not seen the Brisbane highlights, and I didn't really make an attempt to go back and watch.
As I mentioned, I did not watch 1 second of this game. I don't even think there was a bloke that looks like getting anywhere near a first grade squad in either of these teams. So.
Now, just for the record, if you've just signed up or you're listening to us for the first time or watching on YouTube, we are one of the few shows that actually genuinely watch.
We will not skip any games.
80 minutes of every game. And there's a few that don't, or try to live and breathe off a 4-minute highlight reel. We don't, and it doesn't do because it doesn't do the game justice. Simple as that.
Yeah.
So half the fact we don't talk about it is because we could both just have gone and watched a highlight reel, but what's it all mean?
Yeah, could have gone and watched a 15-minute
mini or
whatever it is, and then had a look at it. But very, very little relevance coming out of this game towards first grade this year, and I had things to do. But generally,
How dare you?
we tell you that right now, if we've got things to do during the season, we will go back and at least one of us will watch the full 80 minutes of the game.
And if you need someone to vouch for that, you can speak to my missus.
Yeah, mine too.
She's not very happy for about 8 months of the year.
Yeah.
Anyway, 34-18, Dragons beat the Tigers in a terribly, terribly upsetting evening for myself. But what do you take away from anything you want to talk about?
Well, the biggest takeaway from mine was the Dragons wanted the contest. They wanted the physicality. They wanted the big hits in the middle of the field. And it looked to me about only 50% of the Tigers were interested in getting involved in that kind of physical altercation in the middle of the field. And they blew the front door down in the Tigers, especially early in this match. Sewell was running amok with Jack DeBellin and Laurie going through the middle of the field till Laurie picked up an injury. But Tigers could not contain that forward pack from the Dragons.
Yeah, and it was very, very concerning for me because one, I'm a Tigers fan, but two, it's at least early pre-season Tigers of these last few years, you get the effort and you get physicality, especially from this, we saw last year from this forward pack for 10 weeks into the comp, 12 weeks in the comp.
Yeah.
It's a fantastic forward pack. And they had very little interest in being involved in it, and that was the biggest concern. If you don't have the effort now, it's a real worry for what's to come because they're going to pride themselves apparently on that forward pack and then trying to kick into corners and making everyone work. And as a result, the lack of effort, I think they missed 39 tackles in the first half, and they were just stuff you see at under eights, shirt grabbing and lazy shit. And it was embarrassing because this Dragons forward pack is a forward pack we've been quite critical of, but they're up for it. And it's amazing what happens. It's amazing what happens when you've got a team up for it. Mm. But when Jacob Little starts throwing blokes around, you start going, well, we can see which team's more invested in this game.
Well, obviously there's...
We've all disrespect him because he played well enough for the time he was on the field. But
I'm sure there's diehard Tigers out there that are making the argument that it's a trial and they didn't want to take the bumps and whatever going into round one. But to be that physically dominated throughout a big part of this game, like they did come back towards the back end of the game and started to make a little bit of a game of it and did get a roll through the middle of the field at different times. But for the first 40 to 50 minutes, they were completely cut apart. And the big man, the one that was doing it was Sewer.
Yeah.
Some of the best form I've ever seen out of him. Like going back to when peak form when he was at South Sydney 3-4 years ago. But he was tremendous in this game.
And Sully capitalised on some lazy stuff, but was very good. We know what we get with him, but we know at his best he can be a world beater.
But him and Rava were just bashing up that side of the field.
Yeah.
If it wasn't one of them, it was the other one, and they were just making their physical dominance known. Like they were belting over the top of blokes constantly. And then that just leads to, players left on the ground, players, not in position for defence, and then they capitalised on it quite well.
Yep.
Ben Hunt with the double looked every bit of the controlling halfback that we've seen out of him. The coach Flanagan had a couple of nice touches, but again, sort of disappeared for large chunks of the game, where he was just sort of catching and passing and not really getting too involved, just giving it to someone else to do the work. So, the notables for mine was the Molo brothers were both very good for the Dragons. The back five were all good, but Sully, Rava were the standouts that we mentioned, dominating that edge.
Look, Jack Bird.
Did a pretty
another
good
one
job.
you know very well, but another one, like perhaps the right call if they can trust their forward pack to get through the work they need to. He suddenly becomes a tackle bust.
And he did go
offloading
into
centre.
middle looking for a bit of work as well. So, that only adds to it.
Yeah.
If they are sort of struggling there a little bit, he can jump in there for a set and take a couple of hit-ups through the middle. But did look a little bit better on his feet this week. Got on the inside and outside shoulder of the defence and caused a couple of problems. Little, you mentioned, looked very good. Seward was tremendous. For the Tigers, I thought Buller tried his ass off. So did Sullivan, actually. Really tried hard to make an imprint on the game, but there wasn't much around him that helped a great deal.
Sullivan at this stage of life is never going to be a back foot halfback, is he? So he did the best he could, had some nice enough touches. The greatest hope for the Tigers
took the ball
this year
into the line a few times and got smoked. But
well, I feel like the couple of games you saw the best from him at the Dragons last year was at 14. When come on and just run in and around that ruck and maybe sneak a try himself, and maybe that's where he ends up. And I'm saying that because I think the only hope of the Tigers at all this year is that Lockie Galvin's the second coming of Brad Fittler. So it's not little else, but he looked great. He played, I think he played centre, 5'8", back row, lock at times, and was never out of.
Didn't shirk.
For an 18-year-old kid, would never look like he was sure of the task. He's big enough, still learning.
And was willing to try things. Was happy to go into the line and try to promote the ball for other people. Which
got a couple of kick returns. I thought he kicked pretty well actually. So, and I know Benji's very high on him. So
Heath Mason looked pretty good too.
Yeah,
another
he
half.
Was named again in the junior fullback team this year, but he was okay last week
he was
as well.
Buzzing around, and I think he jagged a try or close enough to. He was sort of.
He did, yes, last few minutes.
Pretty nimble on his feet, causing a few problems for blokes trying to tackle him.
And Pole off the bench was good.
Yeah, and the only other forward worth mentioning was Stefano. I thought he was.
He's great.
He was very good. Limited minutes, but when he was on there, he was busting his ass to make an effort.
Yeah,
So-
well, Kapoa's not a back rower, so
and Papali was good early.
you got owned a bit physically at times.
Had a couple of nice runs, but he's
Jury's out for me.
yeah.
Well, so it's a trial, but and he didn't have his, and Kapoa's never going to be a bloke that's going to go and belt people into next week.
You
so,
do look of it. You do look very ordinary getting stagnant ball out of
That's very true.
on the edges though.
with
When you're
nowhere to
just
go.
running like a forward hit up
Yeah.
and you're on an edge, it just doesn't look right.
Yeah.
So,
Very little apart from anyone to talk about. Like I said, I thought once the juniors came on and they tried hard and they were all fine. And they I listened to Shane Richardson today talk about how they're a development club, not a recruitment club, and they've got good juniors.
the forward pack's going to want to be a lot better.
Yes.
On that performance, they'll struggle to win more games than they did last year.
I agree, and that's my biggest concern. I did a thing today.
But I expect their forwards to be much better. You did a thing?
I did a thing today.
Right. What was
I'm
this thing?
slightly sick, but I I became a West Tigers member.
Hey!
they keep telling us that we're not allowed to have an opinion without it. So fuck 'em.
Non-ticketed
I've gone
member?
and Heritage.
Yeah, okay.
Two of us, so Mariah and myself, both myself and my partner are both West Tigers members now. So
Very good.
the count's gone back from 6,000 to 6,002 or something. So that's good.
It was my first year I signed up this year as well. Been meaning to do it for a long time, but never done it. But yeah.
From the point of view that we always get told you know opinions without being members, well, we're both club members
We are.
of our clubs, and they do mean both our clubs mean a lot to us. So
Heaps.
we're supporting
Live
it.
and die by it.
Fair
Different
enough.
parts.
Yeah. So that included getting the Heritage jersey, which is pretty cool, the first
nice.
ever jersey. So so we're both doing that. I would absolutely be a ticket member, but in a world of 3 girls playing 3 games of netball a weekend, plus a young fella playing footy,
And
doesn't leave a lot of time.
45-minute hour drive to get to
doesn't
most
leave
of
a
the
lot
games.
of time for me to get to games. I imagine, in 10 years' time, if they win some games, I would be on the table. But I am officially a West Tigers member.
Realistically, unless you're using the tickets, you're just wasting money, aren't you? So
That's my whole thing. I would have been a member for
join
20
up
years
as a
if
member.
I could get to every game. And I really enjoy the games I go to, obviously. So
Still a member.
still a member.
Still a member.
And I think I get a ticket to one of the Heritage games. Anyway, Grave. What am I going to say? Dragons
No,
look good.
let it
Like
go.
I said,
Move
just
on.
feel like I say something positive about the Dragons, but they are what they were,
The forward pack does look a lot better this year, so that's something.
which they needed.
It seems a lot more aggressive anyway. I'm not sure if it's huge amounts better, but they're definitely a lot more on the front
in this
foot.
game, they're a lot
So,
more flattered. Let's see them up against Penrith.
Yeah, someone who's going to smack them back.
Sully 79, Sewer 70, Ravalawa 68, Ben Hunt 66 for the Tigers, Pole 73 off the bench, Stefano 54, Lockie Galvin 53. Yeah. Then Sunday morning, 16 to 12, Wigan over the greatest rugby league team of all time, Penrith. In an interesting game. Did you get up to watch this, or you watched it later?
I did get up and watch it.
What do you make of it live? And obviously, Penrith fans don't take losing well, but the referee was well on their sides. I've probably got to say justifiably so in some cases, but they had ample opportunity to win this game, if we're being honest here.
Yeah, absolutely. They had more than enough opportunities. They were dominant through the middle of the field for large parts of the game. The biggest thing that came to mine was the pitch conditions seemed
Very
really
wet, wasn't
did
it?
not suit Penrith at all. Grass cut really short, ground boggy as all all get out. Blokes just slipping over left, right, and centre. Penrith really rely on the sharp shifts out to the edges and the change of directions in and around their second rowers, and they couldn't play that kind of football in this game. For mine, I was very surprised after 20 minutes where they didn't just start running in pairs or in groups of 3
Yeah.
with options inside and outside and just really going direct because they were winning that direct battle. And I think if they'd sent a couple of blokes in support every second tackle, that would have been a different game and they would have really blown open the middle of the Wigan defence. But the Warrington defence, but they scrambled hard. They had blokes working in and across the back of the defence, and they picked up Penrith a couple of times when they sort of make half breaks, and they defended their ass off. That try, let's be serious, the try was never a try. That went up.
The
went
double
up to
movement into the whatever. How it went up even given a try, let alone seeing that way.
And how it wasn't pulled back for a
baffling.
double movement penalty
Well, was it
afterwards.
Exactly.
The bloke had 4 cracks at it. It still didn't make the line.
Yes.
So it's either a no try or it's a penalty.
Yes.
It can't be a try.
100% agree. If you're a Penrith fan, you deserve to be upset about that. You deserve to be upset about the Liam Martin strip in the last few minutes.
100%. Yeah.
Which should have been completely fair.
Yes.
And there was another call.
Well, the Taylor May try at the end, where he's,
I can't get
went
upset
up
about
no
that.
try. Fair enough.
What are you going to do?
You know,
I can't.
you couldn't see it hit the ground. It had to land on something, but for mine, it did look like his arm was sort of tucked halfway up behind his back. So I'm not sure a piece of the ball did hit the line.
Yeah. I absolutely 100% understand that call.
You also do have to realise that Warrington were a half a step away from Bevan French scoring under the post.
Yes.
With 6 minutes to go and then blowing it out to an 8-point game. A 10-point lead and game's over. Like he was half a step offside on tackle 0 to put that chip in behind.
Yeah.
Like that was, you wouldn't see an NRL team do that. That's not the kind of stuff they do. And, that was some really innovative play that could have led to a pretty comfortable win for Warrington, realistically.
This is, all the talk of the best of Super League's eyes up footy, and that was eyes up footy.
Mm-hmm.
And that's eyes up footy is what ultimately will bring Penrith down because they're so structured, they're so trusting of each other's defence and space in the field. That's what beats them. Yeah. It just didn't come off in that case.
And they were a little bit rusty, but I really thought that they should have changed their tactics a lot earlier, and started running with multiple players.
Yeah. I also felt that in that last half hour, they had no trick shots. No. Even the last 10 minutes, their go-to was, let's get to Yo through the middle. Cleary's going to pop up on one of his shoulders. Mm-hmm. Hopefully he can beat someone off the right foot or pop a ball. Yeah. And that was it. There was nothing else. A few times they should have spread. Garner didn't pass the ball out to the centres to bring him to go. I know it was wet. I know it was.
And the young fella Cole at 5'8" decided to run the ball every time he touched it.
And he got some average passes out of, like a few times Cleary flung balls to him that weren't great balls in his defence.
And he did make a couple of sort of half breaks and incisions were cutting back against the grain of the defence. But there was probably more than a handful of times where he should have just let the ball go and it would have been a better option out wide.
I thought their back 5 were all great, like for what they could do in that conditions. Edwards, mountain of work. Tuo, mountain of work. Tango and May both look strong and physical. Mm-hmm. A dry Aussie track's obviously going to suit both of them
100%,
better.
The two big boppers in the middle
nothing wrong either.
Good.
And the props were good. I think at the end of the day, you say Penrith
with a better team.
With a better team, you know what you're going to get from them once they get back on Aussie soil. You know where you're going. So if you're looking at from a season point of view,
over consistency of the entirety of the game, Penrith looked a better team, but they just didn't take their opportunities. There was 2 or 3 times where they should have easily walked over for tries, but the wrong decision was made. So,
for putting this back through the spectrum of what we're looking at for the NRL season ahead, just go, okay, they're Penrith, it'll be fine.
I don't think there's going to be many times they're going to be running around. It's going to be 3 degrees and the ground's going to be like ice. So.
Exactly.
That was their biggest problem. I think the field conditions were so against Penrith compared to their opposition, who are obviously playing it a lot more and understand what they need to do. But, just tactically Didn't pull the right strings,
Probably missed Luai.
possibly.
Well, you might have pulled something out his ass. But
Well,
anyway.
he normally gets people to go with him as well. Like when
Yeah.
he starts bouncing around, someone's normally following him. But
Yeah. What else are we going to say?
not a great deal.
They'll come back here. Like I said, they'll be fine. I think their centres will be fine. I think if
I'm not going to go pick anyone out of the Warrington team.
Mitch
Like,
Kenny, Joe, well,
they're not going to be playing against us.
Ollie's favourite footballer, Bevan French.
Yeah.
Could he have a future in the
He's
NRL?
clever, decent. No, he's not coming back here. You get ragdolled back here on vast, dry Aussie pitches. He'd get belted.
A bit like he got ragdolled for 5 years before he left. Or?
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. Mitch Kenny got a week suspension, by the way, for his white powder controversy over Christmas. So I think that probably means
Social
Peachy
media posts.
plays hooker, unless they dust off Sonny Luke for a week.
Or Somerton.
Or Summerton. But I imagine Peachy's probably going to be 14 for a lot of this year. They trust him and like him. He can play centre too, blah, blah, blah. All right, we get to 36-26, the Cowboys over Canberra. Sunday afternoon. What do you take from this?
I thought Canberra were the better team for 20 minutes or so, 20, 30 minutes. Basically, as soon as Papa Lee came off the field, the game completely changed. He was going really well through the middle of the field. But and then from the 30-minute to the 80-minute period, the Cowboys' attack just dominated this game. It was drink water show again, getting out and throwing stupidly good cutout passes to wingers to score tries. Val chimed in once or twice, but didn't have his the biggest game in the world. They really got the roll through the middle. Both the young back rowers looked really good, and Nanai and Lukey had good touches. Cotter did plenty of work in the middle of the field. Robson had quite a good game out of hooker, but
they still got, like you said, the first few minutes, so they still were out physical.
They're a bit shell-shocked, yeah.
And even by the Raiders' backs, Tomoko, Asuma, those sort of blokes were putting in some pretty good stuff to start the game.
Yep.
And then it obviously changed gear the back end. Thomas McKaylee came back in, scored 2 tries. I assume probably gets a bench spot now.
Looked like a completely different player. Looked like
Well,
nothing I've ever seen out of him before.
No. he had a couple of games for the Tigers where he just had some real good footwork, and he looked like he's going to be something.
He looked like the strongest bloke in the world.
Yeah.
He was throwing blokes around, just like big steps inside, outside people, scoring tries. And he was really amped up for this game, obviously. So he's determined to try and get himself a spot. So a good Supercoach pickup if he does end up getting half an hour, 40 minutes. But I thought Weeks and Savage were okay. They weren't great. Tomoko was easily the best back again and proved head and above any of the backs that were out on the field.
You thinking Strange has the 6th
I
spot?
think he picked up a suspension, didn't he?
No,
One week?
it was
just a
fine.
fine?
They're all
Okay.
fine. It was, yeah.
I don't know. Because he plays a bit more like Fogarty. So I think they would prefer a running 6 more.
Okay.
So if they want to play the basically like 2 sevens on either side of the field, and they're looking more for like the stability with the kicking games, they'd probably play Strange.
They might even start Weeks
I think
in the centre until Chris is back,
yeah, possibly.
because just to give him a week or two.
But I think if they want Fogarty playing both sides of the field, I think Weeks is a better fit.
Okay.
So, but if Fogarty's going to be more on one side of the field, then Strange would come in and do just as good a job as Weeks is going to do. I don't think you're going to get huge, upside out of either of them, to be honest. One's a bit more controlling and one's a bit more free-flowing if you can get the space to give it to him with his running game. But depends which style they want to go with.
Yeah.
Knowing Ricky will probably just play Strange and try to lock it down with the kicking and play into corners and play no mistake footy.
Basically give them, 2 of the same points of attack. Yeah. And because his kicking's quite accurate.
Yeah. No, very good. And definitely looks like a halfback, whereas Weeks looks more like, the running type.
Yeah.
Relying on holes being provided for him rather than him, setting it up himself. But where was I? Tomoko was, easily the best back. Papali looked good, as I mentioned, till he got taken off. Smithies looked pretty decent. And so did Mariota and Starling with their time on the field. But that was probably about it for the Canberra side, I thought. Like, Mooney did a job, Kotrick, Holler, but they did bit pieces that you're not going to see huge amounts out of them during the year. Hosking was very good, especially in defence. The way he was chopping blokes down in defence. Like, he didn't get a lot of
How much time
ball.
did he actually come on?
He was on there for about half an hour.
He's just a bench player. It feels like he's going to be a bench player, though.
I don't think he should be, though.
I know he shouldn't be.
I know they've got Whitehead there, but I don't think he should be.
But I think it's just going to be his lot. And I'm sure next year when Whitehead goes, he won't be. But
his defence was tremendous. Like, I'm not
Yeah,
saying
no,
out of a
he's
super
fantastic,
coach spectrum,
from
but
a football spectrum, absolutely.
the
yes,
way
yes.
that they needed him out there when he was chopping blokes down around the legs. He made about 4 legs tackles in one set of 6 where he just completely stopped the play dead. And, yeah, they looked very good in defence. Nene, Cotter, and Nanai were all good. You chuck Tomalolo in there. I thought he had a pretty good game as well, actually. Lukey was very good. We mentioned McKaylee. I thought Chad had a pretty good game. Got him around the field where they needed to go. Dean was a bit quiet. Chad did a pretty good job, and so did Tuolungi. But, Laybart and Drinkwater were the standouts.
Drinkwater has to end up at 6.
Oh, it's Feld as well, but Feld just sort of catched them and he was just
Put them
catching
over, as
passes
he
and
does.
putting them over
As
the
he
line.
does.
But, yeah.
Colefeld's not just a great draft winger.
But Laybart looked a little bit stronger. Good footwork, good pace, and he was standing blokes up and pushing them around a little bit.
Yeah.
Drinkwater was just all their attack
But
again.
surely he ends up at 6 in the next 12 months. Did and move to
Once
7 and
Chad
he'll be
goes,
6.
I would imagine so, yeah.
I think Chad's already either agreed to be an assistant coach or he's somewhere in that path.
Yeah. And then you get Val or the young fella come into fullback.
Yeah, exactly. Oh yeah, they got the young whippet. Can't have his name.
Chester.
But ultimately, is this a game of a bottom 8 matchup, or can either of these be beyond that?
I think the Cowboys will be sniffing around.
Yeah.
They've just got too much attack where they're going to blow, even if they're behind by 2 or 3 tries. You know that within 10 minutes they can be back to parity.
Yeah.
And yeah, just how often they can get that attack rolling I think the upside for their 2 back rowers as well is still massive. Like, Nanai can still be a much better player than what he is, and Lukey could be just as good. So.
And throw Fina Fiuki in there.
Yep, absolutely.
Yes, agree with all that. Ruben Cotter can float, wherever he has to be in the middle.
But the Raiders, didn't look anywhere near as good as they did the week before. And still, there's some question marks around the Raiders for mine.
They're just who we said they were, aren't they?
Yeah.
1 point of attack. Fogarty has an amazing... It's very hard for Fogarty to be Nico Hines in his team.
But they've got a pretty strong forward pack, which will keep them in a lot of games.
They shouldn't, and they don't get flogged a lot. And when I talk about in previews, that's the thing about the teams that get flogged are the ones where the middle falls apart, because that's where you just get absolutely... Whereas they don't. They'll lose a bit, but they won't get towed up. And if they can fluke 2 or 3, then cool. Supercoach wise, 750 for Peter Holler, Tomoko 45, Kotrick 43, Mooney 39, Cowboys 109 to Felt, Laybut 81, McKaylee 81, Drinkwater 66. And we wrapped up with the Para 26, Titans 16. And you're very high on Para, you mentioned earlier. I was very low on the Titans' defence for a big chunk of this, but credit where credit's due. And you may as well take it away.
Oh, well, it started with the 2 big boys in the middle. Campbell Gillard had a day out. He was just running over the top of people for fun. And Paulo as well, off the back of it. And probably not as good as Regan, but right up there. They just shut down the Titans' attack as well. Like, there was a few times where the Titans did get on the outside of them, but their defence, they seemed to hold and slide, whereas they've been rushing and jamming.
Yep.
And it just seemed to work a whole lot better for their outside backs. I know they're playing the Titans, and it'll be different when they're playing different teams, but it does look like they've gone and...
It's only taken 5 years.
They've gone and changed that defensive pattern a little bit, so we'll see what happens there. But they got a bit passive later in the game and sort of held back probably too much, and that's when the Titans started to put some points on at the back end of the game. But Furmore had a really good game, I thought, for the Titans. So did Tino, but you expect that out of him. You probably expect more out of him, to
They
be
just,
honest.
but for 2 years now, our fears have been that the back half of the second half of their pack is small, and they look small here.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Mo always has his 3 tackles a set, tries to hold that middle together for the first half hour.
Yeah.
Tino is what we get.
Like Cartwright
And
was
without-
picking them out. Cartwright was running
without
at the
Fafita
halves.
they're a
and
small forward pack.
they were running. Tino was running at the halves and the smaller forwards.
Yeah.
And Cartwright just looked amazing. Like he was just running over the top of blokes, popping balls, bashing through these smaller forwards, as you mentioned.
But what that opened up, and it's what we've said, is the key to para is offloads.
Yep.
And they were just offloading, and the minute they started offloading look good, they're offloading to each other. Paulo's offloading to RCG, who's offloading to one of the other forwards, and they had no answer at times.
Yeah. Verrill looked decent from the Titans, but didn't put his stamp on the game. Mo had a good game. So did Randall. Came on, didn't play huge minutes, but Keeney at fullback looked okay. He got a bit nervous and made a few mistakes, and but physically and ball in hand looked okay. Defense on the defensive side, there's a few question marks. The wingers were good in attack, but yeah, their defence, as you mentioned, was pretty poor at different times. Sammy and Cam Pereira. And AJ looked more dangerous than anybody on that side.
AJ was their best player,
Like he was, doing the shimmy shake in front of guys, and they were terrified.
Yeah.
And when those first 3 and 4 steps, he's fucking lightning.
Yeah.
He is so quick over that first 5 or 10 metres, and if you don't grab him before he's gone,
But being a bit flattered to the line actually
late.
becomes interesting, as because he only and same as and the thing he's got Cam Pereira as well on the other side. They're off on 2 steps.
Yeah.
They're gone. That Cam Pereira try, he had half a step on the winger.
Yeah, that's right.
And he wasn't catching him.
Didn't touch him.
And I was again trying to avoid going through too much Supercoach spectrum, but AJ now very much on my radar, and I think he's a great call to get him there. And once you get Campbell back in this team, there's enough and no foreign as well. Enough attacking flair. You know they're going to score 20
And they
points.
really did miss that organisation in the middle of the field.
Yeah.
Tanner Boyd did the best he could, but there was no other option
Yeah.
to help him out. So
and
Weaver came on and tried a few things, put in a couple of nice kicks, but he's not going to provide anywhere near as much as what Foreign's going to in the way of setting up in the middle of the field.
We got to see all we needed to see out of the para forwards. What are you saying about their spine?
Well, Dylan had a pretty quiet night, really. He didn't go looking for the ball too often, and which led to Lane, I think, having a bit of a quiet night, which will change. Most of the season that won't be happening, but I think they just sat back and watched Moses run the show, and he was absolutely killing it at different times during this match. He was fantastic. His kicking game was on, his running game was good, and he caused all sorts of problems, especially on that right-hand side of the field with Cartwright. Him and Bryce were having a lot of fun over there on that side of the field. Gutherson was brilliant again. Kicked it back a cog after the because the job was done here after about 25, 30 minutes, so they all just sort of backed off a little bit. But him and Penasini were the standouts of the outside back.
It was the physical presence you want to see that we saw a couple of years ago. At times last year, nice individual try again, throwing a few blokes around. So he's another one that hasn't quite hit where we thought he could, but obviously can. He's only young, still can.
Hopgood scored the try of the trials, I think. That was a fantastic try, streaming down the middle of the field, score under the post. But him and Cartwright absolutely terrorised the edges when they were out there. And Ogden actually had a pretty decent stint. So he's someone who might be looking to take up that middle rotation with those big guys in the forwards. So
what do they? It depends what they do if they're 14, but they'll have Greg, Madison, and probably Ogden or... Yeah, that's probably it. Those 3. So, no, good, great signs for Para, actually. You got to say great signs. Like I said, at times I thought Titans were soft, and I thought they were manhandled. So that's the concern.
But they look fit and strong.
Yeah.
Which is what you're looking for more out of the trials.
And some of these young, and tried very hard in defence. They just got shown up, and sometimes you're allowed to get beaten by another team as well. So. I don't think it's dire yet, but I don't think they're anywhere ahead of where we thought they'd be.
No, I don't think they've improved greatly from last year. Obviously, I think they were a couple of guys down they didn't put into this squad.
Yeah, like I said, 4, and there's no Campbell, no Fafita who helped the size.
Yeah, so
Yeah. Ticks for Para. That's our Supercoach wise. We've got Cartwright 79, Hopgood 73, Penasini 69, Gutho 69, RCG 61, Titans, Campera 46, Firmo 46, Sammy 46, Brimson 45. Obviously left the field early, got for 154 run meters there. Yeah, that's our look through. So I guess let's put a bow on the pre-season, having seen all of this and soaked it all in, and we're 5 sleeps away. You're thinking, let's get your top 4 impressions right now.
well, off the trials, I can't have the Sharks in there, who I did have second at the start of the year, but I expect them to be a different team than what we've seen in the trials. Brisbane's probably been close to the best in the coming out of these trials. Parramatta would be another one that I would say would be in that top 4 coming off trial form, but I still don't have them in the top 4.
Yeah.
If you want to be serious and want the guys that I'm looking at are Penrith, Cronulla, Brisbane and the Warriors that I think will be the top 4.
Okay. I'm going to say Brisbane, Melbourne, I just forgot one, Penrith, and I've just relegated the Chooks a little bit, so I'm going to put the Warriors in 4th. I think we'll obviously learn them all this week. We didn't get to see the second up, but Roosters played deep in that first game, and they were fine. I still think they'll be there or thereabouts.
Oh, they'll be up there
but
somewhere.
they feel just 5th or 6th to me, so I'll stick with that. Any final words?
No, yeah. Until you get into the season proper and start looking at the depths of these teams, when you start having blokes that are running around a bit tired or a bit injured and all that kind of stuff, you'll actually see the stronger teams come through. But it's only really one team that disappointed, unfortunately, and it was your guys this weekend. They looked good in the first week, but this week,
Indeed.
not so much.
Do you like tipping, David?
Yes, I
Do you
do.
like tipping footy?
I do. I love tipping football.
How do you tip footy?
Generally with who I think's going better at the time.
But what comp do you partake
But I
in?
generally go to PCTC tipping comps.
Excellent. How would I find them?
On all your social media platforms, generally through Facebook is where most of the most of these comps are run. And
This is where I should have said thank God you're here at the start. But yes, check out PCTC Tipping. Go
Gaz
and find
does a
it on
brilliant
Facebook.
job.
Gaz does a fantastic job. You can find it on Threads, Instagram, and Facebook. They're our official tipping partner this season. You can go and find. It's all above board, but if you sign up there's free and $50 buy-in.
correct.
The prize pool is pushing towards $3,000. They pay down to 7, and there's also Champions League, also add round jackpots and all sorts of fun stuff that goes on. All completely transparent. Everything's up every week. We tip through ESPN tips at the end of the day, so you can see everything there. It is a great competition that Barney and I have been part of, that and the racing for a decade now.
At least. Yeah.
So can't recommend it enough. Please go check it out. If you mention when you sign up and mention when you get the inbox, mention you came from Footy and Frothies, you've been cleared now comp. We've got 20 odd people so far with 0 promotion, so there's more to come, and there's definitely more to come because I've got a few contact me today. But go and sign up and become part of our official tipping competition this year, and we will report on that each and every week. I'll also we'll share the links on Facebook in the coming days, but obviously make sure you do it before the weekend so you're in come Sunday.
100%. Yeah, make sure you get those tips in. We've got 2 games coming up this Sunday. You don't want to start with the 0 from 2.
0. Exactly right.
Exactly. And, as Adrian said, not a bloke out there that does it any better than Gaz. So get amongst it. There's good community as well, a bit of banter and a bit of fun. So
Absolutely. So look for all of that. I think we're going to finish on that note because we've got a Supercoach wrap to do, and we're going to preview Vegas. That's all ahead. Subscribe to all our channels. Leave us some feedback if you're watching on YouTube on the comments below. Share us around, and it's only a matter of time till we kick off, eh, Bun?
share me around, please.